Thousands of black homeowners believe they were discriminated against by FNB when it took over Saambou's books through securitization. They allege they were charged higher interest rates compared to white homeowners and have been waiting for years for FNB to pay back the money the bank took from them.
I was bankrupt in such an extent that I nearly sold the house because I was suffering because of I didn't have money.
As it stands and at now, they are a racist bank.
The matter is headed to the Equality Court. At 21 years old, Frans Mokomane joined the police force and bought this, his first house, here in KwaMhlanga, Mapulane. It was an achievement for him.
I was having a child. I wanted to have a house with my family.
The house cost 79,000 rand and it was financed by the now defunct Saambou Bank.
I bought this house through the person who was building the houses for the bank, Mr. Ngoma. So I approached him and then he gave me the forms. He took the forms to the bank and then they built the house for me.
However, he regretted his purchase.
The house was so expensive in such a way that the bond was just increasing every month. I don't know what was happening with that.
He alleges he had to estimate what he would have to pay from month to month and therefore couldn't budget accordingly.
I was bankrupt in such an extent that I nearly sold the house because I was suffering because of I didn't have money.
Frans alleges that on a salary of approximately 6,000 rand, his initial bond repayment was about 2,500 rand, and this increased by approximately 600 rand.
I was, after all the deductions, I was getting more or less 800 rand after the deductions. So you have to pay school funds, electricity, water, with that 800 and buy groceries.
He would later find out that he wasn't alone.
Most of the people around here, we are in a group. We know each other because we are working just around as government employees. And you know, as a government employee, month end we are talking. Hey, this month they deducted this money. This month they deducted this money.
Just around the corner from Mokomane is Mapulane, a father of 5. He has the same complaints as Mokomane. He was a proud man when he purchased his first house and is currently extending it.
Begin a little about 27 years if it's in le mata ge ke reka ntlo e ne ke ntse ke rata because be ke reka ke bona re gaufi le Mohlanga High bana ba ka kgona tsena sekolo ka bogausi se ka ba le di cost change for mo baneng ba ka ba ya sekolo ka re gaufi le Mohlanga High.
He says his house was also financed by Saambou.
Ge bentse re le ko mosebetsing ne ho ntse go na le ntatu ba reng ke Mokhabela o ile re fihlela ko mosebetsing a re bolela gore no le nyaka dintlo na ya re nyaka dintlo ntate Mokhabela ba a re tšeiša jona e ke re ke a gopola ka re be santsane e le Saambou by then and then ka ba ile gore ke applyela for ke kenya application ka for ntlo eo then ya ba you're right.
But just like Mokomane, he claims he found himself struggling, unable to make sense of the increasing bond repayments.
It was getting very bigger every month. Mo ile gore nna ke ile ka thomo la ntate Mokhabela ke ile ka feletsa bile ke nyaka le go irekisha at some stage mara ka nahana ka re ke irekisha mafelelo mo se ntlo itlo fela e re ke no khotelela yana then ka ba ka khotelela ke tswela pele ka yona e benje e namelela ge ya go pele go ba di changes tshitse ile go ya sa le Saambou ya le go kae FNB ha o re ga di bele mo go dira without or notify or this is happening but so benze namelela ya pele.
and he says he couldn't get an adequate explanation.
At some stage, ka baka feleja ke ile go head office go rena ke rai ntlo e nna ka rena ya mpalela a go ka bogole ka nko ke le ka bona na salary na go ngwe ke bona ka re child le mpile yona ka ya ka mo go bonte ka mo ka re ke nyana ba ra wa go ka mogelo re ka dira ka gona o tlamile o no hotel then ya ba no mogelo re ka hotel fitlhela mafelelo ke na re santse go luna di child di ding go gone go le go go ga bima ke patele bondi ya bona ke fetše.
In Kwamhlanga, some homeowners say they couldn't understand how their monthly bond repayments had been calculated, and two homeowners allege they had no idea how much they would be expected to pay every month because the repayment amounts went up monthly. Mokomane says he knew other black homeowners going through the same thing, but one homeowner's struggle to get assistance discouraged him from inquiring further.
I just heard from him that they can't even help you. He went there, they sent him from pillar to post. So I did so that was the purpose of going to the bank because he didn't get help.
When F&B bought Saambou's low-cost housing book by way of securitization, it was administrated by F&B Housing Finance. After reaching out to a financial investigator, both men eventually had their bonds recalculated. The investigator informed them that both their accounts were increased by 4.25% by F&B. From the 1st of December 2001, their monthly installments were allegedly 40% higher than what they should have been. The overcharges on both their mortgage loans were in excess of 125,000 rand. They allege they were also informed that in both their accounts they were each charged over the maximum interest rate permitted by the Usury Act, which is a criminal offence, and they were charged higher interest rates compared to white homeowners. They say as black people living in townships in low-cost housing, they were discriminated against by F&B.
I felt bad because we are all human beings. Even though I'm an African, they're whites, but we are one and the same thing. We are having one blood, which that blood is red.
They have both since finished paying off their bonds, but they want justice.
Ke batla tšhelete ka e bone nna ke gone gore nka dira eng ka yone ke gone go lokisa dilo tse dingata ka yona tšhelete be ba itsereng mo gona mo e dirile gore ke palelwe ke go fitlhelela dinyaka tsene ke ntse ke di batla, but if tšhelete ka gona go bua ke tla gona o ka fitlhelela mo ke ratang gona.
This thing makes me angry.
Mokomane alleges that in Kwamhlanga alone, there are just over 200 black homeowners who were discriminated against. I met some of these aggrieved homeowners.
Kubaluleke kakhulu ukuthi leyo mali siyithole ngoba sayisebenza nzima. Namanje nje sisesenazo ikolodo sazithatha ngalezo khathi sithenga lezi indlu. Manje ke kuya singajabula kakhulu uma ibank ingaphinde isibuyisele leyo mali yethu.
Angeke ba charge abelungu imali encane de after thina charge imali enkulu. So bengicela ukuthi ne njengoba uSaambou wawa asinikeze zonke imali zethu.
Almost 100 kilometers from Kwamhlanga in Soshanguve, Pretoria, I learned that there were more affected homeowners. Lesiba Siyema has coordinated their claims. He says his personal experience has been stressful.
I was in dire need of a house. And then I've seen that this house is being advertised as sold. I proceeded to my employer, complete the necessary forms so that I can get proper assistance in the form of subsidy towards the house. I got it, and the house was purchased. It was a 20-year old term of payment, and then we were not informed of the rate heavy fluctuations, that it was increasing or decreasing. We were never informed.
He admits he fell into arrears because he wasn't making regular payments.
I would maybe pay a lot of money this month, and the following month not pay, because I would tell myself, Ahmad, I gave them a lot of money. I was not aware that that is damaging my record.
Until he almost lost his house.
The only time that made me jump up was when there was a time when this house was supposed to be sold on auction, saying that I'm owing money, and the balance was more than the price, capital price of this house. When I bought this house, it was, as I say, it was still a forum town. It was 91,000 rand. But by the time they were telling me that I've got arrears, it was worth more than 100,000, close to 200,000.
But then he was sent a list of low-cost housing clients who had initially taken out bonds with Saambou and allegedly been charged higher interest rates than their white counterparts. He claims he was among them.
When I got this news that we had been robbed, I was not getting surprised.
He believes he's owed over 100,000 rand by FNB.
As it stands and at now, they are a racist bank. That's what I can say.
In Cape Town, Emerald Van Zyl, a financial investigator, says he has been fighting banks and their abuse of consumers for years.
My whole life goes around justice, and I cannot see people suffering because of greed of banks.
He is asking the Cape Equality Court to rule that FNB allegedly discriminated against black bondholders by charging illegally inflated interest rates of 30 to 40% more than white customers. The total claim is likely to exceed 3 billion rand.
FNB obtained the Saambou low-cost book from Saambou in February 1998. You can clearly see that on the statements. On the statement, you can see the format of the statement is that of FNB. The discrimination started in February 1999, and it continued till the 1st of December 2001. And in that period, the interest rate increased with about 3.5%. Now, FNB was the proud owners of the bank, and they are responsible for the discrimination, not Saambou. What they are saying is that their interest rate was not linked to prime. And secondly, they say that the base rate is the prime rate of mortgage loans. It's called the base rate. It is 2.25% lower than the prime rate. They say that the base rate was only applicable on new loans and not on existing loans, and they could charge whatever interest rate they feel fit to charge.
Van Zyl says although this case involves FNB, he has proof of discrimination by other banks, which Special Assignment is continuing to investigate. He alleges the internal policy taken by FNB was not to inform low-cost housing clients what interest rates they were being charged.
From the 1st of September 1998, it became a policy, internal policy, not to print interest rates on letters, facility letters to low-cost housing. And then this policy was changed in the 1st of September the next year to say that no letters whatsoever must be sent to low-cost housing at all. So these people were unaware what interest rates they were paying. It is a criminal offence. The Usury Act is very, very clear that when there's an interest increase, you must inform the client in writing.
In 2005, in an unrelated matter, he accused the bank of overcharging interest on thousands of mortgage loans, and he says he was proven right when the bank recalculated the accounts and subsequently offered a 154 million rand refund to customers. In this case, the bank had charged double interest in the first month of the loan, which causes the bond to be in arrears from day one.
I can see no reason why FNB discriminated. I cannot see any reason besides profitability. That is why I say, in my mind, that this is the biggest interest scandal and cover-up in the history of South African banking.
And then in 2010, Van Zyl says he was leaked a Saambou customer database. He says it showed roughly 80,000 customer accounts, of which 23,000 were low-cost housing clients. Retired sociology professor Connie Groenewald investigated further and estimated that approximately 99% of these low-cost housing units were black-owned. Van Zyl then analyzed the customer accounts and found they were being charged as much as 30% or more than high-cost housing customers.
What I received was a file with names, an account number, and a number of other items of information, but not on the file itself an indication by the financial institution of the race of a person. What I was asked to do was to see if the classification of people according to race done by Mr. Van Zyl was holding any integrity. Was it a truthful way of classifying them?
Groenewald's work suggested that the low-cost housing units referred to in the database were for government employees who qualified for government subsidies, for which the recipients had to be black and earn below a certain income threshold.
You look at the data and you ask yourself, what in this data is giving away a person's, call it population status, population group status, or the other words that we use in South Africa, race or ethnic group, if you like to say. That was then according to the most visible one that we could use was according to a person's surname. So we used that as a proxy method, and that was the main proxy method to classify people. Obviously, it is open for a lot of criticism, because if my surname is Botha in Afrikaans, then obviously I could be very well a white person, according to descent patterns, or I could be a colored person, if I use that, or I could even be a black African person. It would have been very risky to say just that Botha is now a white person. So in order to assist you somehow, you have to look at things like if the address was available, if the date of the bond registration was available, and those kind of things. Then you could say, well, okay, let's go into it and sort of strengthen the argument.
Van Zyl says in his affidavit before the Equality Court, he has stated that high-cost housing customers benefited from a drop in interest rates, but not low-cost or black customers with a mortgage loan less than 220,000 rand. On top of this, he says the interest rates charged to several black customers were kept at the old higher rate, even though the prime lending rate had dropped for all other clients.
These clients are all government employees. As I said, they get a subsidy. Their salaries goes directly off their salary per debit order every month. Now, where is the risk? They are, to my mind, less risk than high-cost housing.
In 2013, the North Gauteng High Court dismissed Van Zyl's case with costs. The judge found no evidence of racism, but Van Zyl argues that the judgment was flawed. FNB refutes Van Zyl's allegations, calling them baseless. They say they are defending the matter before the Equality Court.
we had to amend our pleas. The reason for that is that the Honourable Judge Fortuyn ruled that the Act was promulgated on the 16th of November 2003, and the court hasn't got a mandate to adjudicate discrimination before that.
So what recourse do clients who feel they've been racially discriminated against have? Special Assignment contacted several institutions. The Banking Association of South Africa said this is not something they can look into and that they don't comment on individual banks. The Reserve Bank said that this was a conduct matter, which falls under the mandate of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority in terms of the Financial Sector Regulation Act. The National Credit Regulator said Section 61 of the National Credit Act stipulates how consumers are protected against discrimination in respect of credit.
What the provision indicates is that a credit provider must not directly or indirectly unfairly discriminate against any person on one or more grounds as set out in the Constitution. These grounds would specifically be issues like race, gender, culture, as well as disability. The National Credit Act makes provision for certain steps that consumers can take when they feel they've been discriminated against. They have the option of approaching the Equality Court, instituting proceedings, or they may approach the National Credit Regulator, who will then in turn evaluate such complaints, and if it's been found to be valid, the National Credit Regulator will then refer such matters to the Equality Court.
The Banking Ombudsman said they have received a few complaints where allegations of racism were made in the credit space, but it was found that there was no evidence of racism and that the credit was not approved due to affordability.
So my advice to consumers is to make contact with our office. We'll guide them through the process. There is a dispute process that they have to follow, and we'll help them through that. And that they must understand that the more information they can give us, the better. It mustn't just be a vague feeling that there was discrimination. That unfortunately is not going to assist. They have to have facts, dates, times, and do it as soon as possible. Our services are completely free of charge, and if they do not accept our outcome, if the consumer is not happy with the outcome, they still have all their rights to pursue the matter elsewhere.
The affected homeowners still believe they have a fighting chance.
We're still having hope that really we're having a case here. It's a winnable case.